No, actually, thank you everyone for having me here. So, thank you Malcolm, thank you Robert, thank you Joy, and Miss Hang. Thank you for joining us for today. Yeah. So during this session, so we will be having question all about the legal line, the experience, the risk, and the benefit of legalize the digital access on the world. So I think that this is my honor to having all of you here because here is the top three, top one, top two, and top three exchange in the world. And I don't know if there's a session like this before. Yeah, I think that there's nothing happened like here before. Yeah, thank you. And okay, for the first question, I just want to ask. So right here we can see that what is a key benefit of legalizing digital access for a country economy. So I think this is the first question I just want to ask. So maybe Mr. Malcolm, you can
Yeah,
give
absolutely.
some idea about this. Yeah.
Certainly, yeah, thank you. And thank you to SSI particularly for inviting me back to speak here again. It's great to be here back in Vietnam. So thank you for that. I wanted to take a step back actually and look at this from blockchain, and I think about the action plan from 2024 to 2030 and the importance of blockchain and how these things are really intertwined. So blockchain, this ledger of transactions that can't be altered, this is supported with smart contracts. These are pieces of code that can automate. Behind all of this, you have digital assets that can help to drive this. They're the fuel for blockchain. So these things are very, very much connected. And with that, we start to see this community building of people that are actually building solutions on blockchain. They're using digital assets to support that. I was talking to Suchi Blockchain yesterday about the number of builders who are actually present in Vietnam, and I've experienced working with developers as well. There's a very, very vibrant community, so it promotes having strong legislation or good legislation helps to promote this ecosystem that is developing. It's been talked about as being like the future direction for financial services, but it's an awful lot more as well. So I do see that we have benefits here by providing strong guide rails that say this is the way firms need to operate, here is how we can protect consumers from any harm, and really put in place those steps, those foundational steps for digital assets that mean that they can support the whole blockchain ecosystem. It kind of goes beyond that. We can think about the wider initiatives as well and how it supports GDP growth, how it supports tax revenues, how it can support inbound investment, because firms will want to come here and invest in people, in technology parks, in centers. It has a lot of positive impact by providing those rails for good regulation and operation.
Thank you so much, Mr. Malcolm. So I can see that there's a lot of benefit that the digital access when it's be legalized. Yep. So I just want to ask another question. I think this one will be for Miss Joy. So because Binance already have so many experience in setting the license, and there's a lot of countries that already legalized for digital access. So can you share a bit about the experience and what country you have done it? So and what the lesson for Vietnam to make it? Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Look, I mean, at Binance, we have spent a lot of time and energy ensuring that our regulatory footprint is as comprehensive as it should be, and obviously there's a lot of strategic decisions that go into those applications and licenses and other approvals that we have. But I think if you take a step back and you look at the regulatory framework in general, in the last 5 to 6 years, we've made enormous, we as the industry have made enormous strides in terms of developing those regulatory frameworks. And I think if you look at where we started, which was really nothing, it then became a lot of AML-focused regimes, and we're now moving into a different phase where we've got regulatory frameworks coming into place which are much more comprehensive and robust. So they don't just cover AML, but they also cover other areas which are really key to ensuring that we are appropriately protecting users, dealing with things like conflicts of interest, custody, asset segregation, insurance, conflicts of interest, market integrity. These things are all really pivotal to ensuring that digital assets continue to be adopted, but in a way that we're protecting users, and so we can encourage more mainstream adoption. And I think if you look at in APAC, for example, Hong Kong and Singapore, they were both very early movers, but they are both now in a place where there is a very comprehensive framework that gives, I think, users as well as participants alike a lot of clarity around what exactly is expected of them. And for the users, they understand what kind of protections they're going to be getting and what they should be looking for when they are selecting the market participants that they are working with. And I think if we look a little bit further afield, what I find really interesting with like the UAE, for example, you've got VARA, which is a special and a relatively new but a regulatory body that was established specifically for the purpose of regulating digital assets. And I think in the UAE they've done a really good job in the last couple of years of positioning themselves as very liberal and progressive and forward-thinking regulators. So they've made enormous strides again in being able to attract Web3 to the UAE. And then if you look at sort of Europe, again, very interesting because it's actually a regional approach. And obviously there's a lot of complexities that we're now seeing play out because you've got, nearly 30 different national regulators trying to figure out, a very comprehensive regulatory framework, and also interacting with the regional regulators and, how does that fit in with the existing regulatory landscape and, how do you not herd cats, but, how do you keep everyone moving in the same direction when sometimes different countries have slightly different priorities or different views about things. So I think it's a very complex landscape for sure, but very interesting. And I think if we take a step back and we think about what are some of the key lessons from that, I think one thing for sure is it is critical for regulators to really engage openly and frequently with industry because, the pace at which the market evolves is very, it's very fast, obviously, and it's difficult, I think, for regulators sometimes to keep up with what is happening. Frankly, it's difficult for market participants sometimes to keep up with what is happening, let alone for regulators. And, for them to try and have like a mindset where they can put something in place which balances consumer protection with, still fostering innovation and allowing the market to develop. That's not easy. So I think, regulators really do need to engage frequently and openly with industry to understand what is happening now, where is the market going, and how do you provide guardrails that still facilitate that growth. And I think, another key takeaway really is steady as she goes. I think that for some, we may have seen some examples where, regulators acted quickly, very early on, and in a very comprehensive way. But then, as the market developed, they found that there were things that they needed to fine-tune, and perhaps they had to, kind of take a step backwards and reverse some things. And I think that makes it very challenging for industry as well as users alike, right? So consistency, clarity and consistency and keep moving in the same direction, like these things are very important for the continued and sustainable growth of the ecosystem.
Yeah, thank you so much. So actually I can see that there's some keyword over here. So the first one will be the most important is like protect the user. So everything right here, the legal line, everything is just to protect the user. So this is the most important things. So yeah. And you have, Robert, you have any thing?
Yeah, I was just going to say, well, again, thank you for having me. A pleasure to be here as well. And just to add to kind of Malcolm and Joy's comments, 100% agree. I think over the last 2 years maybe, you've seen those frameworks, as you said, develop from AML, pure AML, KYC, to talking about, as Zaki's Joy said, kind of consumer protection. And actually a couple of weeks ago, there was an event in Singapore, and I was talking to the MAS, and they were very much asking me about market integrity, market abuse, how do exchanges protect consumers against that, or how do they monitor for that on their platforms. And I've been around kind of long enough to know what that looks like in a TradFi space and now in the crypto space. And I think the regulator, MAS, was very keen to understand those risks. So to Joy's point, I think that kind of collaboration, that conversation between exchanges and regulators is a really kind of key conversation to have. And one of the things that I've seen with, say, Vara, for instance, is that, again, that collaboration. They're keen to understand the products. How do they work? And I think maybe 2 years ago, the kind of default position was, if we don't understand this product, you can't do it. And now I think we're seeing that change where they want to understand what the product is, what the impact to users are, the risk, the benefit, and then actually how can they regulate that as well. And again, one final point just to add, I think coming from that TradFi space, when I used to live and work in the UK, there was like a sort of bankers association where the regulator would engage with the industry, talk about new products, how they want to regulate, what does that look like, and how can that be implemented in practice. I think that's probably the next, for me, the next kind of iteration of the conversation between market participants and regulators. So to Joy's point, to keep that line of conversation going as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And right here, we talk all about the benefit. So I just want to ask, curious, okay, we can see that there's a lot of benefit. Okay, the tax, protect user. We can see that building for startup ecosystem, something. So right here, there's two sides of the story. Benefit. So what is the risk for legalizing the digital assets? So what do you think, Mr. Malcolm?
Thank you. So I think the risk is not so much in the legalizing as ensuring that the regulation is right fit, so that it supports the market with responsible innovation. We need to have a regulatory framework that fits the need, as it were. And that's best achieved, I think both Joy and Rod mentioned it, is working on that public-private partnership, going step by step into the regulation rather than maybe trying to build everything at once, and having an approach where the regulation can develop as the understanding of the market and the risks of the market are best known. So I think that very much it's that. The risks, again, of not regulating are the lack of consumer protection. And that's really a key point, is that we want to make sure that there is this protective layer for consumers to be able to buy, sell, trade, hold, whatever they would like to do, but do so in a way that the environment protects them. So I think that the risks are really more around just making sure that the regulation is the right shape to support, but at the same time protect.
Ms. Hang, so actually I just want to ask you one question. So because here's three exchange for digital access, and you from RSI is a traditional financial house. So in your viewpoint, what the potential of the digital access for the Vietnam market, and is at your viewpoint? Yeah.
Thank you very much. Actually, it's interesting for me to be on this panel along with three big exchanges, and also someone who is actually not doing anything that has anything to do with legal. But from a business perspective, I think that if you look at how everyone is interact today, it's all through this phone. So everything is on an app. Everything is actually via your mobile phone. So I think that actually already shows the potential of the digital assets in Vietnam already. Especially if you look at the Vietnamese populations, more than actually 75% of the market is actually internet penetrated. And each one of the Vietnamese, we have 100 million Vietnamese, but I read from a number that the number of mobile users in Vietnam is actually over 100 million. That also means that almost half of the population has more than one phone. That actually shows that Vietnam is somewhat kind of ahead in terms of technology already. Where do we see the potential for financial firm? In general, I think that with the digital, the introduction of the digital asset, we will see a lot more increased accessibility. People who have never actually unbanked, then can actually start using banks on their app, on their phone. And that actually also, in terms of the same thing with trading. Before in the past, and even in the previous panel, you heard the CTO of VietinBank talk about how people have to go to the bank to actually execute their transaction. Now everything is on this app. So this is actually making a lot more convenience, and that will actually increase the populations who actually will be using the digital technology. And I think that also that will also transform in terms of the financial products. There will be more innovative new products that will be introduced, and not just the traditional products anymore, but will probably be a hybrid of the traditional and also the new products.
Yeah, thank you. So I have another question. So this is not only for exchange and all the traditional, this one for both. So how does the digital assets ecosystem impact the traditional financial sector? So banking and security as well. So maybe Ms. Joy, so you can, if you want, you can join this question. Okay. So actually, the question is, how does the digital assets ecosystem impact to the traditional financial sector? Yeah.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's a great question. And I think we've seen a lot of developments in the last kind of 12 months in particular, where we've seen that increasing integration of digital assets into traditional capital markets, right? I mean, if you just look at the news, some of the headlines that we've seen, even this year, right? I mean, spot ETFs, people like BlackRock and other kind of traditional asset managers coming out with tokenized money market funds. There is this, it's undeniable, there is this increasing nexus between traditional financial markets and kind of what we consider the traditional actors in that space and digital assets. So I think, it's just a matter of time. We are seeing things like increasing guardrails, so increasing integration between like payment rails, for example, with digital assets. So I think, there's definitely activity in a lot of different segments of the ecosystem. And I think my view personally is that in 5 years' time, everything is going to be on-chain. I think all of the traditional financial products that people use and see and trade in, invest in now, they are all going to be on-chain in 5 to 10 years' time. And they are going to be sitting alongside what we call the crypto-native financial instruments now, which perhaps are not intersecting with the regulatory perimeter, but they will be, because I think it is inevitable that we will continue to have this kind of merger between traditional financial markets and products as well as digital assets.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Robert, do you want?
I was going to say, I 100% agree. Just to add on to that as well, I think as for traditional institutions, that they have a bit of an advantage as well, kind of moving into the digital asset space. I mean, for the three of us, we've had to kind of build our compliance, legal and compliance functions, understand what the regulatory frameworks are. I think, again, the last panel, somebody mentioned about building or having compliance policies, procedures. All three of us have had to build and adapt and keep on doing that from scratch. Traditional banks have all that in place already. They know what a compliance framework looks like. They have compliance teams already. And so you're beginning to see, to Joy's point, a lot of traditional firms have a digital assets arm or a digital assets wing. And from the ones I've spoken to, they're very much kind of leveraging on what they have already and just kind of tweaking it from there. So I think for a traditional institution, that that leap is a little bit kind of easier. And so to Joy's point, I think, again, you're just going to start to see either kind of commonality in language or commonality in thinking about kind of risk and digital assets between kind of exchanges and traditional institutions.
Yeah. How about you, Malcolm? What do you think about this?
Yeah, I'm a guy working in crypto wearing a suit, so I think I'm already hybrid. But to be honest, I think that the opportunity, I think Ms. Hung said earlier about new financial products is quite key. If I think about, for example, OKX last month partnered with Standard Chartered Bank, and that was a big partnership to allow institutional customers to now hold their crypto assets with the bank, which enables them to then be able to trade better. So there's opportunities like that we start to see emerging. There's new products, there's financial inclusion, the ability to use blockchain and even payment rails that involve digital assets to really bring sectors of society. I think about a project in Indonesia that is bringing more money back into the hands of farmers because of the use of blockchain and digital assets to support that. So I think there's a real ecosystem there, again, as I said earlier, that can help to support that. The banks are pivotal, though. It's a pivotal part, whether it is through the innovation of products or it is to really provide the infrastructure to support digital assets. So that might be operation accounts or client money accounts to protect client funds. It could be any of these things. But there is a synergy between traditional finance, digital assets, blockchain developers, regulation. These things are all together that we need to view them as holistically, and that will allow us to really build this strong ecosystem on what the future of finance looks like and what we can build for the support of the country and the economy.
Thank you so much. So, I can see that. And I just want to ask another question. So, again, we talk about benefit. We talk about supporting. So right here, I can see that we need something that to measure the, like minimize the manipulation of the market. So do you have any idea about how the government should build something that can manage the manipulation for digital assets? Yeah. So it's about manipulation and how to control that.
Okay. So actually, I'll go back to, Joy mentioned my former employer, which was Dubai Virtual Asset Regulatory Authority. And there we had a compulsory handbook for market abuse. So the standards were set at a regulatory level to say you should be operating and providing these. Within OKX, we've built out a market surveillance function. So we're looking for market abuse and those type of behaviors on the platform to ensure that it operates fairly and consistently. And it's about creating that fair and orderly market. So doing that across spot trading, derivatives trading, and everything else. It's an integral part of operating a platform to have those fundamentals in place.
Yeah, thank you. So how, Joy, do you have any idea here? No, right? Sorry. Do you have any idea here?
I think the only other thing I would add, I mean, obviously everything that Malcolm said is spot on, but I think it does come back to the point that we've all kind of touched on earlier, which is really about engagement between regulators and the market. Because frankly, market surveillance in particular and transaction monitoring is one topic which we have had, I guess, discussions with multiple regulators about, because they want to understand more about what it is that we do, how do we monitor those risks, and what are those risks. So I think, there are certain aspects of digital assets that are quite different from traditional markets. And this is one of those areas where regulators really look to the industry to understand more about exactly what those risks are and how they can be managed and mitigated. So I think it's definitely an area crying out for greater collaboration between industry and regulators.
Yeah, thank you. So, Ms. Hung, so I have another question for you. So what do you think about the key challenge of the traditional house facing and the key difficult that you are facing also?
I think the teams here already mentioned a lot of the issues that we, as a traditional financial service firm will have to deal with if and when digital asset is actually legalized is in Vietnam. I think the regulatory issues and regulatory compliance are probably the two things that we will have to adjust and also see how that will work. A lot of that will also have an impact on our business strategy as well as our investment products and offering to the clients. But having said that, I think that those are just a near-term challenge. I think that the opportunities ahead of that is actually quite significant, and it really outweighs the challenge that we're seeing. And that challenge will continue to evolve as the market evolves also. But in terms of opportunities, we see that, as I mentioned earlier, there will probably be a lot of new innovative products, a lot of the hybrid products that could be introduced. And especially banks or even financial service firms will have to be a lot more proactive in terms of integrating all of these new hybrid products into our systems also to serve the clients who have the need and also aspiration to diversify their assets and portfolio.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I think that we have enough for today. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me for the session. Yeah, thank you again.
Thank you.
We make something history for today. Thank you.